What's the one thing that if you had it, you would decrease the amount of time it takes to get business and increase the profitability while reducing the cost? Welcome to Supply Chain Today. Today we're talking about trust, more specifically, the speed of trust, with the author, Stephen M.R. Covey.
Wow, thank you, Ralph. It's great to see you again and to be with you. We had a couple of conferences together, and I'm delighted to be here on this special show for Supply Chain.
Hey, listen, my Supply Chain Today audience has seen you a couple of times, but for those who haven't or don't remember, I just want to remind them, I have Stephen M.R. Covey, who is the author of this book, The Speed of Trust. It is a New York Times best-selling book, but more importantly, it is about the subject that all of us keep asking about, and that is, what can I do to better connect with my clients? What can I do to have better business? And I believe it is what Stephen writes about in his book about trust. And to give you an illustration of that, when Stephen and I first met, one of the things that I read about in the book was how when you have trust, you reduce the amount of time it takes to do business with one another. And then at the same time, it increases the profitability because you've spent less money. And that resonated with me as an executive, and it resonated with the other executives. So Stephen, the first thing I want to talk about is, how does that work and what does it look like?
Yeah, I'm glad you started with that, because this is kind of the key compelling reason why this topic matters to us as supply chain professionals, as executives, is that there's a compelling business case for trust. Because usually when you say, hey, we got to build trust, everyone kind of nods, rolls their heads. Yeah, of course, that's nice, and apple pie, and it sounds good. And I try to shift the paradigm and say, trust is not just some nice, soft, warm and fuzzy social virtue. Trust is a hard-edged economic driver. And here's why. Because it affects the speed at which we can move and the cost of everything. So when trust goes down in a relationship, on a team, in a company, in a culture, or with a partner, in a supply chain, when the trust goes down, here's what you will always find. Everything will take you longer to do, the speed goes down, and the cost goes up. Everything will cost you more to do, a lot more. Now that is a tax. Here's the good news. When the trust goes up in that relationship, on the team, in the company, in the culture, with your partners, in your supply chain, when the trust goes up, the speed goes up with it. You can do everything faster. The cost comes down. It costs you less. When you have built high trust in a relationship, on a team, in a supply chain, with partners, and there's trust, mutual trust between each other, how you can move exceptionally fast, low cost. Speed happens when people trust each other, and nothing is as fast as the speed of trust. And here's the final kind of output of this is that in a couple of different studies, they came to the same conclusion, which is this, that high trust organizations outperform low trust organizations by about 3 times in total return to shareholders. Why? Because they get far greater speed and far lower costs, and ultimately you can monetize that. You can put an economic value on it. So trust is a performance multiplier of about 3x.
And I have to tell you, that is a remarkable way to explain what it is that I knew the minute I read this book. But it does then lend itself to the next question, and that is, why is it so elusive? When I think about trust, and I almost equate it to like faith, hope, love. People know those feelings. They know those things. And then when I add trust to it, people say, yeah, I get that, but for whatever reason, the business case is sound, it's solid, and you put it really well. But why does it elude them?
Well, it's kind of the flip side of this business case. See, the business case is taking something that's seen as soft, trust, and showing, in fact, that it's hard-edged. It's economic, it's financial. You just have to view it through new lens, and there's strong data that shows it. Trust is something that you can quantify, you can identify, you can measure, you can move, you can look at the dimensions of it, the components behind it. And in fact, you can get good at building trust on purpose.
Wow, Stephen, that's really, really impactful. I couldn't agree more. And we'll be right back.
You have a great product. It's better than your competitors, so why doesn't it sell better? Your competition has great name recognition. Why don't people know who you are? If you want to have the market share your competitors have, you need to let people know who you are. You have a story the market needs to hear. But how do you cut through all that noise out there? A goldfish has an attention span of 9 seconds, but your customers will only spend 8 looking at your site. If they don't see something interesting, they're gone. So give them something interesting. Video can capture the imagination of your customers and tell your story in a way nothing else can. And it can keep your customers' attention for minutes instead of seconds. We can help you craft your story to be irresistible to the market.
Welcome back to Supply Chain Today. Today we have Stephen M.R. Covey, the author of The Speed of Trust, a New York Times best-selling book. Talk to us a little bit about counterfeit trust and what we should think about there.
Trust is built and created through our credibility, who we are, and through our behavior, how we behave, how we interact with people. And where the counterfeit idea comes in is that there can be, counterfeit behavior that looks real, but is really inauthentic. And it has another agenda. It's kind of like passive aggressive behavior, or it's kind of like a behavior that builds trust, for example, is to talk straight. Now, the opposite of that is when you kind of lie, and that's obvious. That's not going to build trust. But if you talk straight, that's authentic. That's real. You tell the truth, that will build trust. The counterfeit is when you spin, where you twist, when you manipulate, where you posture, where you, quote, technically tell the truth, but you leave the wrong impression. And counterfeit trust is not sustainable, and it's not authentic, it's not real. But again, this is not just kind of words. We have to behave our way into trust, just like we behave our way out of it. So we talk straight, we demonstrate respect, we create transparency. So we've got to behave our way into trust, just like you can behave your way out of trust. And that's, again, it comes back to kind of making trust tangible, making it practical and actionable through a language, through a framework, through a process to build trust on purpose, and to especially avoid those dangerous counterfeits that can trip so many of us up.
Stephen, before I let you go, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about where we are right now, but talk a little bit about how important it is with where we are right now as a country in the supply chain space, and then as we move forward and get through some of this.
Trust has always been critical, essential, but never more so than during times of crisis and disruption. The greatest asset we have as a leader is our credibility. And the greatest power that we have as leaders is our ability to extend and give that trust to others.
Stephen, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for being a part of this. But more importantly, thank you for giving us something we can really work on to help our businesses and help ourselves both professionally and personally.
Ralph, and thank you for this opportunity. It's great to see you again, and it's great to be with your viewers of Supply Chain Today. I'm really honored. Thank you.